The first light of day hadn't yet touched the quiet town. In a remote corner of Wisconsin, where fog drapes the trees and time seems to move slower, a small farmhouse sat in stillness. It was one of those mornings where even the birds chose silence. Inside that house, a young mother named Emily was trying to stay awake. At 28, she was new to motherhood, exhausted, but filled with love. Her husband, Mark, had taken a temporary job in another state and could only come home on weekends. That meant Emily was often alone with their newborn son. Noah. Noah was only 6 weeks old. The past night had been rough. He'd cried for hours before finally falling asleep just before dawn. Emily, barely able to keep her eyes open, placed him gently in his crib and collapsed onto the couch for a few moments of rest. The house was still, too still. But one soul was alert: Shadow, a 5-year-old German Shepherd. Shadow had been Mark's loyal companion since his teenage years. Strong, intelligent, and gentle, he had become Emily's silent protector after Noah was born. Since then, he never left the baby's side. That morning, something shifted. Shadow stood up suddenly. His ears perked, his body tense. He sniffed the air, then trotted quickly to the baby's room. He didn't bark at first, he watched. He sensed. Shadow stood at the crib. The door was half open. Little Noah lay still, too still. Shadow's instincts kicked in with full force. He sniffed the blanket, pressed his cold nose to the baby's cheek, then pulled back. He didn't wait, he turned and ran. He darted through the hallway to the living room, where Emily lay half asleep. He barked, not an ordinary bark, but deep, urgent, desperate. He pawed at her arm, growled, circled. Emily blinked awake, confused. "Shadow, what's wrong?" she mumbled. But Shadow didn't stop. He ran to the hallway, then back to her again. Something in his eyes, panic, pleading, shook her fully awake. Emily rushed into the nursery, and then time stopped. Noah's face was pale, his lips slightly bluish. His tiny chest wasn't moving. "Noah!" Emily screamed, her voice cracking. Her heart pounded in her ears. She scooped him up into her arms. His body was limp. Shadow stood close, pacing, watching with laser focus. That morning, a mother's nightmare had begun, but a dog's instinct refused to let it end in silence. With trembling hands, Emily dialed 911. Her voice cracked with terror as she cried out, My baby isn't breathing. Please, help." The operator guided her through infant CPR. Gentle compressions, breaths, Emily tried over and over. Her tears fell onto Noah's tiny face. Shadow didn't leave their side. He stood beside them, ears back, tail low, growling softly as if warning death itself to stay away. Minutes passed, like hours, then sirens. The paramedics rushed in. One look at the baby, and their pace doubled. They continued CPR and carried Noah to the ambulance. Another few minutes, and one of them said, shaking his head. But then, the sound everyone had prayed for a week. Raspy gasp. Noah had taken a breath. He was alive. The hospital was cold and quiet. Emily sat outside the emergency room. Her hands clenched tightly together. Her eyes were swollen from crying, her heart still racing. Shadow lay beside her, his head resting on her knee, eyes locked on the closed door. Behind that door, doctors were stabilizing her son. Soon, Emily learned a term she'd never heard before. Intuitive alert. One of the nurses explained. Dogs can sense changes in breathing, heartbeat, body chemistry. Some dogs can detect seizures before they happen. What your dog did it was instinct, but more than that, it was love. Emily nodded silently. She couldn't explain what Shadow had done, not in scientific terms. For her, it wasn't just instinct, that it was a miracle. Shadow had acted without hesitation. No questions, no doubts. Just pure, fierce loyalty. He hadn't just saved Noah. He had saved her, too. Noah recovered quickly. His little body responded well to treatment. But something inside Emily had changed forever. When they returned home, Shadow resumed his role as guardian, but this time, it was deeper. At night, He lay curled beside Noah's crib, eyes half open. During the day, he followed Emily from room to room, ears tuned to the slightest sound. One evening, Emily stood silently in the doorway of Noah's nursery and watched. Shadow was sleeping with one eye open, head resting gently against the crib. His body was tense but calm, like a soldier at rest between battles. A friend of Emily's, Claire, posted a short video online. It showed Shadow keeping watch beside Noah. Within days, it spread across the internet. Hundreds of thousands of people shared it. Comments poured in. I cried. I hugged my dog tighter tonight. That dog is an angel. Faith in human animals restored. Even a nurse from another state sent a handwritten letter. I've cared for hundreds of babies. But after reading your story, I finally understood what true devotion looks like. 2 months later, the town honored Shadow. In a small ceremony, children clapped, cameras flashed. Shadow wore a medal around his neck. Emily spoke at the event. Her voice trembled as she said, Shadow didn't just save my son's life, he reminded me what love looks like when it has no language, just eyes. And loyalty. Today, Noah is 5 years old. He's healthy, full of energy, and obsessed with dinosaurs, but his best friend, his guardian, is still Shadow. Shadow has aged, his fur is graying, his legs are slower. But Noah understands. He never pushes Shadow too hard. He reads to him, brushes his fur, and sometimes just sits beside him in quiet companionship. Every night, before bed, Noah kneels beside Shadow's bed, places his small hand on his head, and whispers, I love you. Thank you for saving me. Emily often watches from the hallway, her eyes wet with emotion. Not all miracles come with wings or halos. Sometimes, they come with paws, with silent eyes, and hearts that beat only to protect the ones they love. This miracle's name was Shadow.